Hi there, it's Darlene from Darlene's Creative Studio. Welcome to day 11 of our Creative Journal Prompt Challenge. I'm going to be working on create a unique journal card, and I'm going to be using some cutouts from a book that had some 1900 actresses. It was in a large book, and they're quite old, so I thought I would go ahead and use these particular ones as to put on make a journaling card out of. I'm going to use some of this fabric and some lace, and again my old family history journals, and I'm going to use a stencil as well. And I have these tabs that I've punched out of, I believe they were cup holders from your hot tea. But I did not bring my tab punch with me, so I'm going to cheat today, and I'm actually going to create a tab out of this paper, just drawing it out and cutting it. So we're going to get started. Let me just move some of the stuff out of our way here. And we will quickly do our first thing, which is distressing our card. And we'll get that into our book for day 11. Thank you. All right, let's get this in here. For day 11. Just grab my pen here. And we're going to be working with some book pages / pictures. Oops. Fabric, lace, and I'm going to put the old history book pages so I remember which ones I used. And distressing. And this is January 11th, 2020. There we go. Get him out of the way. Now I'm going to keep this handy because we're going to be distressing. What I'm going to do first is take these images, and they're all about the same size. They are all about 3 inches by 4 3/4 inches. Let me see that out. So I'm just going to go ahead and distress the edges of the pictures, just to take away some of that, white image that's around, or the white lines that are around the edges. And make them look a little more vintagey and older to go with the actual picture. Alright, so these ones are already distressed. I just did a little bit of this in advance. Okay, so we've distressed the edges of our papers. So we'll set those aside. And we're going to be taking our family history, and we're going to be cutting it into 3 inches by 4 3/4 inches. So I'm going to cut one of those. So we're just going to cut it at 3 inches, and then 4 3/4. So there is our little page, and again we'll distress the edges of these. Just a little bit on the edge there. And then what I'm going to do for this page, I'm going to take this Tim Holtz stencil and I'm going to place it over top of the paper like that. And I'm just going to take my brush and gently blend some of the Distress ink onto the page. And then that will give us a nice look to our paper. So that'll go on the back of the card. So it'll be like that. Okay. And then what I was thinking of doing was taking a piece of this fabric and cutting it. And I've got a little piece here already cut, to go behind the image. So we want it big enough that a little bit will show. So I think I'm going to do it like that. And then this will go on the back. So I'm just going to go ahead and, oops, flip that over, cut some more of this fabric. And I'm just tearing it to give it that frayed edge. And you can fray it as much as you like. You can pull more strings off if you wish it to be more frayed, if you want it to look more stringy on the ends. I'm going to end up dunking one of these in my tea, I think. There we go. And we'll do one more. Let me get that guy out of the way. Okay. So that was my original one. There we go. Get rid of some of these little edges. And then we just have to make them the same length. And again, I'm just going to tear off, pull that out of the way, a little piece off the bottom here. You just have to give it a little nip, because once you get it in place, you can just rip it. All right. So there's one, and I'll save that piece. I might use it for something else. There's two. And there's the other piece. Okay, so those are my 4 pieces that will go behind the images. I'm just going to pull that little bit off there. Okay. So let's move that guy out of the way. So these will all go on here like this. I have string everywhere. Oops, that's from the other fabric. Let go. All right. So there's that one. There's that one. That one and that one. Yeah, I'm liking those. I'm just going to see if this one fits better on this one. Okay. Let me just put the pin back in my glue here so it doesn't get hard. Okay. So that's what I was thinking. Then I was thinking of taking some of the lace bits and putting them behind the image just on one side. So we had this little lacy piece on one side there. Make sure I stay in frame here. And then putting another piece on this side. And I just want to put it behind the picture, so I will trim that to size. So we'll get that to make it look vintagey. And then I'm thinking of adding a tab to the top, and I'll show you how I made those tabs as well. So that's the other thing we're going to do, and I'm going to cut those. And then for the tabs, because I don't have my tab punch with me, and I do have my We Are Memory Keepers punch here off to the side, but it makes very, very small, thin tabs, probably about that wide, and I want a nice big one. So I'm just going to take this piece of book page and I'm just going to fold it in half, make a fold there, and then I'm just going to cheat and I'm going to put the top right on top of the fold, and I'm just going to trace my tab. That. Excuse me, and then cut it out. There. So I have a nice little tab there. And then I'm just going to distress. All right, let me get rid of these strings for a second here. They keep attaching themselves to everything. There we go. I'm just going to distress the edges of the tab. Now this piece of plastic is getting quite covered in distress ink. If I was to spray this with a little bottle of water, just mist it with some water and lay my paper down, I could actually distress some paper, because this is just the ink, and this is plastic, it'll stay there and it'll just kind of make little water droplets with the ink. And I might do that on some paper for another book. So there, we've distressed the edges of that, and then what I was going to do was take the stencil and just set it right on the tab. Oh, I did it again. Dunked it in my black. Just got a piece of paper. I keep dunking it in the black by accident. Okay, let's dunk it in that one. And I'm just going to distress the tab with a little bit of the ink. There. So that when let me just get this paper out of the way, I'm going to put this in between the fabric at the back and the card that will go on the back of this. So that will be on the back. We'll have the little tab sticking up. I'm going to trim this lace and fit it behind. So let's put one of them together and see how it looks. So first of all, we're going to glue, and I'm only going to use Fabri-Tac because I'm using the lace and it's fabric. I want it to stick really well. So let's just put some glue down the side here of my picture. Do one at a time, and I want about halfway through that first piece, and I'm going to have to position it because the lace has a bit of a stretch to it and it wants to turn in. See, so I'm going to pull it out there. So there's my first piece. And then I'll take my scissors and trim off the edges. Make sure I got it out all the way while it's still wet, and then trim that edge off. Let's do the other side. I'm going to do it upside down just so I can see the image while I'm putting this on. There we go. I just want to stretch it a little bit to pull it out. So we have our two laces on the edges, and we're going to trim that one off as well. And now I'm going to glue it to my piece of fabric here. So let's glue that on. Okay, got all over my finger. And we want to make sure we put it on fairly straight because you really can't move this around again. Okay, and then we're going to grab our little piece of paper, and that's going to go on the back like that. And then we're going to have the tab kind of sticking up. I wonder if I should put it underneath the picture. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Let's pull that up a bit while it's still wet. And glue that onto the back of the picture. I think that will look better there. Make sure it's even. Okay, so we have that, and then we're going to glue this page onto the back. And again, you can use anything you like to make your own journaling cards. I am just using what I have brought along with me on my vacation. That's why a lot of my things that I'm creating, I'm using these old history book pages because that is what I brought with me for lined paper. And I brought a few stencils and some book pages and whatnot. So there we go. So there is my unique journaling card. And I'll just go ahead and play a little bit with these ones. Let's see, where does my trim? Let's start with the trims. Let's just cut that big piece off there. So we're going to need one about there. And remember, you can stretch your lace a little bit because it's kind of, well, this particular one anyway, most materials you can play with them and stretch them a little bit, so don't go and cut yourself off too much. Okay, so we're done with that. So we'll glue the lace onto this guy next. See, some of these are their names and then saying she was in movies in 1879 and 1883. So these were quite, it was an older book. I think it was from the, women of the 1800s or early 18th century film or something like that. And some of the pictures were quite cute. Some were not. There was also some men, pictures of men, but I didn't bring those with me. Okay, there's one. Yeah, just stuck that down. Maybe I'll just make sure I have enough glue on there now that I've gone and put that down. There we go. And I basically want to place it and then move it around once I get it in place. And you can stretch it or pull it in, whichever works for you. There we go. So there's another one. Let's trim those. Hey, bubble. Bink. There we go. And let's cut that guy off. And then we'll glue this one on to the fabric. And we're going to grab that tab and put that tab on as well. Just going to add a little bit of glue behind this tab here. Give it a little stick. There's that one. Let's glue that a little bit on. I'm going to pull him out a bit. I'm going to do the other side. Put him on. Oops, pull that too tight. And just make sure it's where you want it to be. Give that a nice pull. Okay, let's trim off our ends. Let's pull this guy out a bit here. That's better. Okay, let's cut off our ends. And we'll grab our tab here. I'm going to glue that on. Right there. And then we'll glue it to the fabric. Whoops, using my This one says 1878 and 1894. All right, let's place him in place. Flip it over and just give it a good press. So there's number 2. This one was 1877 and 1885. And there's a date here, 1923. I think it was when they, no, 1904, sorry, 1904. So the movies were quite old. They were in, I guess it was black and white, and later on they added the color into the film. When they took the photograph, I mean, not when the film. All right, let's do this. Oh, I did that one, didn't I? All right, put him on there. So there's a big storm coming. We're just going to be getting rain and wind, and I guess it's going to be spreading all throughout the States and up into Canada. So we're going to go get some groceries and prepare for a couple of days of non-sunny days. So it may be a little darker in here when I do my videos. Hopefully it won't be, but who knows? Okay, and then we need a tab. Just going to glue it closed first, maybe easier. Tack it closed. There we go. Let's glue that tab on there. And add some glue to the back. And we're almost done. We're just going to glue our papers onto the back. Of the fabric. All right, let's position this last guy here. Make sure it's nice and even. Flip it over. Give it a good press. Okay, so now for the back of these three, we need some of our paper. And again, I've already gone ahead and made up a couple more. And again, I just distress the edges and then use my stencil and just ran my brush gently over it. If you push too hard, you'll get a very, very dark image. And you want to be able to write on these, so you don't want it to be too dark. You can see where I went over it a little bit more than I did in other spots. All right, so let's glue this one on. There we go. And then this one. And one more. And we'll put this guy on here. There we go. Those are our 4 journaling cards. So there's the front and there's the back. And that's it for today. I can't think of anything else that we're going to be working on. I may make a couple more journaling cards and stencil a few more of these, and then maybe use these in another section of the journal. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a couple more like this size and do the stenciling, and then perhaps when we meet another day, I'll make some more tags or journaling cards with these as well. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you tomorrow.